Thank you. Thanks, Gareth. Good morning and welcome to everybody to the Rock Poundtown, and a blessing to be together on this Sunday morning. The title of my message is The Little Boy Who Gave His Lunch Away. And no doubt from that you would all have registered that it's the feeding of the 5,000, plus the women and children. And it is the only miracle or sign, as John's Gospel gives it, that is in the four Gospels. It's an amazing story. Sorry. Is that going to be too much? Okay, sorry, I can't see otherwise. The disciples in Mark chapter 6 and verse 7, the disciples were going to be sent out and in pairs, and they were given authority over unclean spirits. This is giving you the background up to where the feeding of the 5,000 were. Jesus told them not to take anything for their journey except a staff, and that's like a walking stick. And it was the companion of travelers in those days. The staff also provided potential protection from the criminals. They even had them then, and wild animals. They weren't to take any bread or any food, no bag, not to carry their usual leather traveling bag was quite something. And in it was normally the food and bits and pieces, and they were said not to take that, not to take food, no money in their belts. Wow, can you imagine? And they were to wear their ordinary footwear consisting of leather or wooden-soled sandals, which were bound around the ankle and the instep to keep them on. The sandals were necessary for protection to the feet because of the hot and rough terrain in Palestine. And not to put on two tunics. Tunics was the normal standard clothing that they wore, and they only were to wear one because two was for the rich people and to show. And Jesus wanted them to identify with the ordinary people that they were going to mix with. And wherever you enter a house, and however long you stay, bless them for that. And any place that does not receive them or listen to them, and as you go out, you shake the dusts of the sole off your shoes for a testimony against them. And that's probably like COVID-19, when you greet a person with a toe greeting. Next part, Mark chapter 6, tells us of the beheading of John the Baptist in verse 29. And when the disciples who had been out and were now back heard about that, they came, and the Bible says, and they took the body and laid it in a tomb and went and reported to Jesus. Then the disciples gathered together with Jesus and reported to him all that they had done and taught. And Jesus says to them, "Come away by yourselves to a secluded place and rest a while." You see, they had been out doing a lot of ministering, a lot of talking, a lot of healing, a lot of teaching. And then they had come back to that sad news that John the Baptist had been beheaded. So can you imagine how they had been feeling? Can you imagine how Jesus had been feeling? After all, that was his cousin and probably his playmate as a child. And they had grown up. And now suddenly this man is not there any longer. He'd been beheaded. And so they go away in a boat by themselves. And the people saw them going, and many recognized them and ran there together on foot from all over the cities and arrived before the disciples. Some of them did. And John's Gospel also tells us that it was the time of the Passover, a feast of the Jews. So there must have been a greater number than usual people around. And the multitude had to run around the lake, which probably is twice the distance that they rode across the lake. And they came there before them. And Jesus, when he came and saw the great multitude, was moved with compassion for them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And so he began to teach them many things. Now don't forget, he's just heard the news, the disciples are there, they're tired, they've rowed across the lake, and now they arrive, and now there's this multitude wanting attention. With the multitude coming like that, some arriving before them, and they could see others still coming in the distance. Can you imagine how they must have felt? And Jesus and the others seeing what miracles, they were coming to see what miracles Jesus was doing. They were coming to hear, and they were coming for a lot of different reasons. And with the multitudes coming, maybe the disciples were disappointed because they had been apart from Jesus. And when Jesus had sent them out in twos, also Jesus had seen they had needed a break. The Bible said they didn't even have time to eat because there were so many comings and goings. And sometimes we also get so busy. Not that I ever forget to eat, but it's... Who does? But you see, that's what the Bible was saying. It was telling us just exactly where they were, their tiredness, the need they had to rest, the need they had to eat. But still the multitudes are there. And you know, sometimes we just feel, oh, I'm too tired to serve the Lord. I don't want to do what is required of me. Also, Jesus had seen they needed that break. And so they must have all been hungry and tired. And now the multitude was arriving. And maybe they did not feel like attending to the crowd. Have you ever felt like that? And the day is wearing away. I love that expression. The day is wearing away. Because sometimes you're wearing away at the end of the day. And I am. And Jesus, so he went to the crowd. They go to Jesus and they say, please send them away. Please, can you imagine? Please send. They were concerned, but not concerned enough to do anything about it. Send them away. Let them go into the villages to go and buy food. Let them go into the villages to go and find somewhere to rest, somewhere to lodge. But please don't give us that problem. We don't actually want it. Let them go and look after themselves. Let them go and find their own food and their own place to sleep. Then Jesus says, you feed them. Can you imagine how they must have felt? Tired, weary. They themselves are hungry. And now Jesus is telling them to feed the 1,000. What? Shall we go and buy 20 denarii worth of bread and give them something to eat? You know, maybe a crumb or two. And Jesus said, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. And a lad with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Sure, he wasn't the only one with food that day. There were many travelers, many people who were coming to the Passover, and their normal was to carry a bag with food because they didn't want to eat the Gentiles' food. So there would have been many, but it was one little boy. The others didn't want to part with it. Ooh, don't see my bag with my food. But one little boy, just a little lad, 5 loaves and 2 fish. Barley loaves was a staple food of the Hebrews and a symbol of poverty. This lad didn't come from rich family with plenty, but however poor he was willing to give what he had. He had no idea what was going to happen. He had no idea when he would eat again, because he'd just parted with his food. His mom, no doubt, had packed his 5 loaves and 2 fish for her little boy who would have food. Maybe he was carrying the food for the family. One young lad amongst 5,000 men. Yet Jesus knew what he was going to do. He knew that the little boy was there with his 5 loaves and his 2 fish, found them amongst all those people. 5,000 men, the Bible tells us, which doesn't include the women and children. There must have been a challenge to the disciples. Don't forget, they were still tired, still hungry, because Jesus had drawn them aside to rest, and it hadn't happened. And I'm sure they must, if only we can sit down and forget what's going on. They hadn't had time to eat. And now Jesus was wanting them to help with the feeding of the multitude. Jesus is saying to them, you give them something to eat. In other words, you're not going anywhere. Please help me. Tell them to sit down in groups of 50 and 100. And on the green grass. I love that. The Bible's very descriptive, isn't it? On the green grass. Then Jesus takes the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and he looked up into heaven. And I'm sure when it says he blessed the Father for his graciousness and for his giving and for his willingness to bless and to multiply. And he broke the loaves for the men, women, and the children. And he tells his disciples, he gave thanks, he broke it and gave to his disciples, and he gave, and they in turn gave to the multitudes. Can you see the picture? That little boy with those little 5 loaves and 2 fishing giving to Jesus. And Jesus blesses it, looks to the Father for blessing, and it's broken, and it's broken, and it's broken, and there's a multitude to be fed. Can you know, I thought to myself, do the disciples take this out in their hands? Did they find trays, which is what we would have all decorated, to feed them? And where did the bags come from, the 12 bags that they put the food in, 12 baskets that they put in food? And what happened to the baskets? But you see, Jesus has it all, tells his disciples to gather up the fragments of what was over, and they filled 12 baskets. And I thought, 12 disciples, they were hungry. I wonder if they got the baskets. Here's one little boy prepared to give away his lunch. I don't believe he was the only one with food. One little boy who came prepared. Some others might have been prepared, but weren't prepared to give. They were prepared only for themselves. Philip kind of concerned was, there's a little lad here. Philip was the one who said, must we spend 200 denarii and get some bread? He was concerned that maybe they should just have a little bit. Andrew, if you were Andrew, would you have said anything about the 5 loaves and the 2 fish? Because your mind would have said, can't do anything with it. I wonder who received the baskets afterwards. 12 tired and hungry men, and it's not always convenient to serve God. God desires us to be ready at all times. The day was fading and was wearing away. I love that. Yet Jesus took the time to feed the multitude. And you know, when I read that the day was wearing away, and was it dark? How long did it take to feed the 5,000? Was it dark when it was finished, or had it not quite worn away? It just took my mind as to, you know, we so glibly read these things, but do we really comprehend? 5 loaves, 2 fish given to Jesus. Not much, a little man, a little lad amongst thousands. Maybe we feel that what we have is small and insignificant. But when you give it to Jesus, he will look to the Father, and he will bless, and he will break what you've given, and he will give to you, his disciples, to then pass on to those that are hungry. Whatever you have. And I was thinking of Jehovah Jireh. The things are given in, from people, and it's taken and given to those that have need of it. You see, Jesus blesses. He blesses. And you know, so often when I take the stuff, I say, Lord, just may it go, please may it go to the right person who has need of us. And then the fragments, there's so much over. And you see, the Word of God is so full and so free. There's always so much over to what you have. And whatever you have, God will take it. He will break it, and He will spread it. And it's the Word of God that we can break to each other. We don't have to stand here like I'm doing this morning. We don't have to do that. We can break it to each other as we meet. And the Bible also says the Word of God does not return to Him void. When you keep what you have to yourself, you will, number one, be lonely, and only you will be satisfied. When you share, you give to others, and they are satisfied, and it's the sharing. The little boy gave willingly, not knowing how much it would be multiplied. And if we give willingly, we don't know how it will be multiplied. You see, no one in the crowd would have thought this little boy mattered. He was just a lad. He was probably running along, skipping, and maybe throwing a few stones or tripping over something like little boys do. No one would imagine that what he was carrying in his little basket would not only be a provision of that time, but would be the only story told in the 4 Gospels. One little lad in a crowd of over 5,000, with his food bag of loaves and fish, had been chosen by God to be used by Jesus to feed so many. No one knows what that from that time on, every man, woman, and child who comes to know Jesus and reads His Word would know about the little boy and what he carried in his bag, and to know that Jesus used him to make the point of points about his identity. We will never know which person God will use. Young, old, means we are not lost in a crowd. Don't think you're insignificant and no one sees you. God does. Don't think what you have in your hand is insignificant. God will take it, and He will break it, and He will bless it. The Lord will use us in a way we can never predict. The Lord knows us all. He knows where we are. He knows what we have, and He knows how to use it. And I just want to come back and focus on Jesus. Also, don't forget that Jesus was sad when He was with the disciples and when He was with the multitude. He'd just heard about John the Baptist. He was tired. He'd been teaching and healing, and also must have missed the companionship of His 12 friends as they were away, the disciples He had sent out. And they had come back and they were talking to Him. But you see, with all of that, when Jesus saw the crowd, He had compassion. When He saw the crowd, He had compassion. He taught them even more. He was concerned not only about their souls, He was concerned about their bodily needs in the food. And you see, we need to have a look and to see and have compassion on those we come across, that we can see maybe they do need food. Maybe it's spiritual food. Can we share it? It's the food from our table. Can we share it? And if Jesus can have compassion and we say, oh, to be like thee, may we have the compassion as well. Amen.